Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory, prices, and delivery of cards for Magic Online. And our newest co-sponsor Cardamajigs.com, presenting Cubamajigs. These durable, scratch-resistant plastic cases are perfect for cube sideboards and more, with new designs every Monday. I'm Evan Irwin, and I'm going to get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Erin Campbell.
Hi everybody.
Reuben Bressler.
Oh, hi. Good evening. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome with that sass.
You're so proper.
I was doing my best.
Bring the sass on.
Bring the sass. Aaron's was too proper, so I had to.
Someone on this show has to be trashed.
Okay, well, we also get started with our Trumpet Blast. You can get one if you support us at our highest level on Patreon. Feel free to check that out if you want to. But we kick it off with our first pick and giveaway. Our giveaway is a $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com. But next week, not next week, the week after, when the release of War of the Spark, we will give away a booster box. We are giving a booster box of War of the Spark.
Nice.
Which is going to be sweet. So, we have a preview.
We do.
And this preview was very unique because what Wizards tried to do, and I mean, I think successfully in many ways, what they were trying to do and working on was a way to unveil the story, the culmination of 4 or 5 years, I think now, worth of storyline, to bring it to our Endgame. Not Infinity War, which kind of weirdly ended up being Hour of Devastation.
Right.
But our Endgame. And we've had some issues, as this is one of the longest spoiler seasons ever. It's 3 weeks. They haven't done a 3-week spoiler season in a long time. I can't even hardly remember. But they used to. But they don't anymore. And this one was very long, but it also unfurled in 3 different acts. And our story moment, our card, our preview, was one of those big turns. We have had this card since March 5th.
Yeah.
And we've sat on it and waited and waited and waited. And as more leaks started to show up, and people just taking crappy cell phone pics and not caring about how they present something, and not caring about what it means to the story, and not caring about how there were a group of people who have worked literally years of their lives so that you could see this unfurl before you. They would rather just get the internet points or the karma or whatever, because our preview made it all the way to this morning before some prick on Reddit decided to open the pack however they got it.
Yep.
But I'm still proud of it, and I still think it's fantastic. And if you haven't heard it, by God, this is a great preview. I present to you Tyrant's Scorn is a black and a blue mana for a uncommon instant that says choose one, destroy target creature with converted mana cost 3 or less, or return target creature to its owner's hand with the incredible flavor text of, quote, the hero with the magic sword slays the dragon, not this time. Quote, Nicol Bolas.
Yeah, this card is the package. You know, when you first showed me this card, you know, I looked at what the card did and I was like, wow, that's really, really good. And then I looked at the art and I was like, that's really good. And then I was like, that's the Blackblade. That's Dakin Blackblade's sword in his hands. He's using that against Bolas and it doesn't work. He breaks the Blackblade. And so we've had to sit on this for over a month and how amazing this card is. And we made it this far. And I remember waking up this morning and I let you guys know, and I was like, it finally happened. And I was like, we made it. We got all the way to the last day. And because people had been asking us, you know, every day a new leak would happen, we would get concerned messages from our fans and from listeners that are like, was it yours? Are you guys okay? And I wasn't saying anything because I didn't want to give anybody any clues. And then even today, it was like people were like, was it you? Was it you? And I still wasn't commenting. And it was just like, oh, God. And it's a really, really crappy feeling. And there's been a lot of talk about leaks, particularly in the last, 2 days or so. And it really is a big problem. And it was in particular a big problem with this set because, as you may or may not know, the previews were meticulously laid out and given out almost down to like the last card. And so, to see somebody's work and to have our work, be stymied feels really bad. But, don't feel too bad for us. Like, we're going to be okay. Like, Evan can mispronounce half the show. Reuben can be tatering out of his mind. I can be 3/4 of the way out of the frame, and you guys are still going to tune in. Let's be honest. But there are a lot of other smaller creators out there that really could have used the exposure that having a preview card would have brought them. and now they might not get as much of it because people already know what their cards do, and that's really, really sucky. And I wish it wasn't like that. I wish the culture wasn't in such a way where people felt like they were Robin Hood, you know, carrying out this heroic mission, you know. And I think until the goldfishes and the mythic spoilers and the Reddits agree to not do this sort of thing, to not highlight this sort of thing, you're going to have people incentivized to do this, and it's really unfortunate.
Yeah. But I think that with all of that said, we did get quite the epic card.
We did.
And I think this would be the kind of card that we would talk about even in a weekly roundup, not just because of the effect, which is a 2-mana split card, Smother and Unsummon, both of which are cards that have seen main deck play by themselves, much less on a card in one small package like this.
Right.
One being one of my favorite phrases in Magic the Gathering. But the story moment that is happening here, where we had the Desperate Lunge and we were discussing, oh man, we have this cool moment similar to Deicide from the Theros story arc, where Gideon is taking this big legendary weapon, more legendary than even Gideon himself, and is coming at this ultimate evil, and somehow, some way, is deflected away at the very end. And Nicol Bolas continuing his rampage and maintaining his footing. We'll have to see 2 more days worth of story cards to see if the quote-unquote good guys win or if the big bad evil guy prevails. Yeah. But this was a hell of a shock when we were sent it, even without context, because man, this is a punch in the chest.
Yeah.
Yeah, the idea that you can have Smother or you can have Unsummon, and both of those things are good early, and then it's good late for the Unsummon half of it. You know, sort of as a tournament competitive player, this is a terrific card. As a story moment, this is the like, oh my god, I thought Blackblade was going to finish him off. Like that's you can't. What this was the whole plan was to have Gideon and the Blackblade and the thing, and he's on his card and he's falling and all and doing stuff. That was supposed to happen, and then Nicol Bolas is like, get out of here. Go on with yourself. It's ridiculous. So it's just very bittersweet in knowing what a cool card it was and how we have a culture of celebrating leaks in a way that is honestly, what is best for Magic? What is best for this game? What is the best sort of highlight of all of these endeavors that take years to fruition?
And honestly, this is... I don't wish a leak upon anybody, but if a show was gonna have their spoiler card leaked or their preview card spoiled, this one's probably the right one to do it, because we're going to address the situation head on as soon as it happens. I would rather it happen to us than a brand new content creator who's never had a spoiler card or a preview card in the past and had their card spoiled. There were content creators out there that were putting in hours of work into their preview videos. I know Kibler had something in the works that he decided to scrap because the card that he was going to preview got leaked. Wedge was working on 3 different story videos of various kinds. Lots of people, especially this season, this seems to have been a conversation, not only because of the lengthened preview schedule out from 2 to 3 weeks, not only because there are so many story beats that need to be covered, epic moments that need to be hit, characters that are brought back, and the sort of greatest hits album that this has become as a set, this War of the Spark set, but also because it just seems like the conversation shifted a little bit as a result of how exactly it came about. And I think that in some serendipitous way, I'm not glad that we had our card leaked. But if it was going to be leaked, having it happen the day of is nice. And now we get to have this conversation. And Magic Mike's is nothing if not having the conversation, the tough conversations.
Well, it goes even further. The War of the Spark novel.
Oh, God. Yeah.
The Ravnica novel. Before everything else had been leaked, we still didn't know what was ultimately going to happen. And Hipsters of the Coast, which I feel at least...
should know better.
Who should know better. They write this weird line. On one hand...
the chosen one! Sorry.
On one hand, it's like they're like, we're the New York Times of Magic, we're here to get just the facts, ma'am, and we're going to get ourselves some quotes, and we're going to talk to industry leaders and all that stuff. And on the other hand, they took this where someone had been sent the book early and took a shot of the pages, to make sure it was real, and then spoiled literally everything, to which point they said, a lot of community members were like, well, what are you doing? Why would you ruin this? It's not news. You're just spoiling the whole story.
It's funny because we actually talked about this during one of our live shows. I mean, we had one of our live shows in Vegas when the Ixalan, the whole sheet got spoiled. And I remember I was in the camp that was like, it turned into a red zone because you guys were like, well, the toothpaste is out of the tube, we're news sites, news sites have the responsibility, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, but you can say that like a leak happened without having to go into detail as to what exactly the plot lines were. And so nobody's saying that you should pretend it didn't happen. It's more like, how much exactly do you get into it? And you see that a lot from these sites, again, that sort of Robin Hood attitude of like, we have an obligation, we're performing a service. And it's like, you got a blog, like, let's be clear. You're not curing cancer here, girl. Like you can skimp on details. It's funny.
I've been around long enough, the Magic community to have been around for, the Ixalan debacle, the God Book, the Judgment,
Starkington Post, remember that back in the day?
Post. I was around for the Rankered Elf debacle way back in the day. Like if anyone's super old like I am, then you understand that spoiler season, it's even something I have trouble changing my vernacular about. I still call them spoilers. I'm trying to change that vernacular because they're not spoilers. They're official previews, #sponsored. They are not leaks when they are done correctly, and they're not spoilers when they're done correctly. And so, it is something that my view has certainly evolved on. It is no longer. I think it is more TMZ than NYT to be publishing this article. And I think it's something that you can grow and change your opinions on. The other thing is that Magic Mike's is a very focused, hyper-focused, kind of, I don't want to say myopic, but it's, triopic. And myopic mics. And we all sort of exist in this world where all of us are hugely in the conversation and in the know all the time. We don't really have the casual player's perspective. And they just want their cards, man, right? Like a casual player playing Magic just wants to know what the cards are. They don't care about your, 3-week story unveiling. They don't care about your spoiler season. They don't care about your #official previews. Give me all the tea, right? They want their TMZ. So it's a trade-off. And we in our seats in our ivory tower can look down upon the peons and say, of course you shouldn't, get that karma that was rightfully earned by us, the valiant members of the Magic Mike's podcast. And then that means nothing to people who are just like, hey, I found a cool thing. Look at this cool thing I found.
All right, so let's talk about some cool things. We gotta keep moving here. Let's talk about some of the cards in the set that we are excited about. The first one I wanted to bring up, and of course I'm going to scryfall.com here and nowhere else, so we don't actually run into things.
Wonderful job, of course, by scryfall.com, not only posting official previews, but also linking back to where they were previewed from.
Absolutely. So this first one is Casualties of War. It is 2 green, 2 black, 2 generic mana for a rare sorcery that says choose one or more. Destroy target artifact, destroy target creature, destroy target enchantment, destroy target land, destroy target planeswalker. No longer will you need decimate to have all the targets. You just get any target you want. Screw that, screw you, screw this other thing. This is one of the biggest catch-alls. This is one of the best casual rares I have ever seen, ever. It solves everything. It hits a ton of permanents. It doesn't have any weird restrictions. It's all upside. Wow. I'm
very
just
Golgari. You know, we've seen Golgari has a history of being able to destroy permanents. You know, going back to Pernicious Deed all the way up to Assassin's Trophy and Gaze of Granite and you know Abrupt Decay and things like that. And so it's very par for the course when it comes to Golgari. We've seen a black green deck in Standard for a while with Vivian Reed and things like that. And so I think if black green is going to continue being a known quantity in Standard, this is absolutely going to see play in there. Even if it's even if not in the main deck, I think it's absolutely worth second.
Yeah, absolutely. So that card is exciting. Commence the Endgame is the second card I want to talk about. This card, first of all, has incredible artwork by Noah Bradley. The auction for it was at $8,000 earlier. Wow. And that's like day one or whatever.
This was the key art that we saw first, right?
Yeah.
This was the first image, I believe, that we saw.
I think so. It might have been possible.
It was one of the first. Yeah.
Right.
I think it was part of something else. Like I think it showed up on a screen or showed up on a box or something. It wasn't
right.
Yeah.
But either way, it is incredible. Commence the Endgame is 2 blue, 4 generic mana for an rare instant that says this spell can't be countered. Draw 2 cards, then amass X, where X is the number of cards in your hand. You put X +1/+1 counters on an army you control. If you don't have one, you create a 0/0 black zombie army creature token first. So at the end of someone's turn, particularly in a control mirror, for example, I think it is reasonable to have 4 or 5 cards in hand after you draw the 2 cards from this spell, at which point in time you are making a 5/5. If you're playing the Amass deck and you are really working on the Amass triggers, you putting 5 counters on what maybe just a 3/3 or a 4/4 turns into an 8/8 or a 9/9. Like, we're talking about really quickly ending the game. It already can't be countered. Mike Flores wrote a really cool article on Cool Stuff about how, you know, back in his day, he had to play, there was a dragon spell that you had to like show a dragon or control a dragon.
I was just going to say,
for it to be uncounterable.
Esper Dragon's card draw spell?
Yes. And
something like this?
Yeah, and this is just better. Just absolutely, totally better in every way. And creates a monster for you and gives you card advantage and can't be stopped. That's a hell of a Magic card right there.
Pretty amazing that this is a Magic card. It does so much. I mean, drawing cards at instant speed, no matter how expensive it is, no matter how many cards you're drawing, is kind of great. So 6 mana for 2 cards, that's a lot. You know,
it's a lot.
6 mana for 2 cards and a flash end of turn, either blocker or you know, 2/2 to, let's say, 7/7 token.
Right.
It's great. And it's just gravy is the thing. The decks that are going to be playing this don't particularly need the body. Mm-hmm. It's just something left over. Yeah. So in some ways, it's a lot like a Torrential Gear Hulk or a lot like a Snapcaster Mage. But in other ways, it's like, that's just gravy. Yeah. Like you're drawing the 2 cards and forcing a removal spell, but who cares? You're just getting so much.
The thing I love so much about this art is how small Liliana looks in this, because Liliana is one of those characters that normally dominates the artwork, and rightfully so. And we might even see that in a couple of our cards that we're going to talk about. But, you know, you see, you know, Bolas and you see the Eternals on either side, and you see her, and it really is kind of summing up the situation that she's in, that she is sort of enslaved. She's indebted to Bolas. We're not seeing her be, you know, the personality that we're used to, you know, the sort of sassy necromancer. You know, you're seeing her kind of her, not only her physically lowest point in terms of the art, but just where she's at as a character. And that to me really stuck out, because you don't normally see Liliana so like that.
The flavor text of Even Gods Shall Kneel by Nicol Bolas. That's some hot fire. Yeah. My last card I wanted to talk about. You know, I've seen a lot of Magic cards. Okay. Yeah. We've been through this many times. We've been through many spoiler seasons. We've seen good sets, bad sets. We've seen overpowered craziness. We've seen underpowered sadness. It's rare when I just, like, I have, like, an Erin reaction where I just start laughing because I'm just like, what is happening? I don't. And I just start laughing. And people are like, what are you doing? I'm like, I just start, like, making sounds out of my mouth because they revealed, like, Nicol Bolas's, like, signature spell, the Elderspell. The Elderspell is 2 black mana. That's it. That's all. There's no additional casting. There's no as an additional cost to blah, blah. No. 2 black.
Well, it's funny because when I first saw this, I was trying to rationalize it by telling myself that you had to have a planeswalker out.
Right.
Because that made it seem a lot more reasonable, where it's like, oh man, that's a lot of work for 2 black. And then somebody clarified it and they were like, oh no, girl.
You don't need to have a planeswalker.
It can be that simple. And I was like, Jesus.
2 black for a rare sorcery. That says, this is a sentence on a Magic card. Destroy any number of target planeswalkers, period. Period. If we had just seen that line of text, I can imagine we would have been talking about this card in some form or fashion. But no. We got to keep going. It then says, choose a planeswalker you control. Choose does not mean target, which means you don't have to have one for this spell to still work and happen. But if you choose one, you put 2 loyalty counters on it for each planeswalker destroyed this way. It is difficult to explain the insane amount of magical Christmas land scenarios that this card brings you. The ability to instantly ultimate all sorts of things is ridiculous. The fact that we have uncommon walkers, we have plenty of 3 mana walkers and 4 mana walkers that we can use to get to something like a 7 mana play the new Nicol Bolas, Elderspell, ultimate. I hope you have a legendary creature or you're dead. Like that's amazing. That's incredible.
I am, first of all, shocked that this is a rare and not a mythic. The word "the" says to me mythic. Now, I know that there's stuff like, the Rack and the Eldest Reborn and stuff like that. But the Elderspell, like you're telling me that's just rare? Like that happens 3 times as often as a mythic?
I'd have been okay with this at Mythic.
Yeah, I would have been okay with this. This feels like a Mythic, even though it's 2 mana. And oh, by the way, this is 2 mana. What in the world is happening?
Oh my god!
Like you better, for your Teferis, you better have like multiple negates now. I guess black has sort of been the least played color of Standard as of late, at least in terms of the 1 and 2 color decks.
Right.
It's been a little bit of a support color. The Esper control decks, of course, picking up in popularity, Grixis Dragons, things like that. But I see that changing because of how many Teferis are around. Now, of course, this it is real corner case. Not every deck has Planeswalkers. Mono Red's not going to have Planeswalkers. Mono White's not going to have Planeswalkers.
Right.
But any matchup in which there is even a Planeswalker around, this is going to be huge.
And yes, Contrast 101, you absolutely can target your own Planeswalkers. I think the thing...
That is the blackest thing to do right there, is to sacrifice your own Planeswalkers
Greatness
to
at any cost.
Another Planeswalker, yeah.
Now, if you recall, when we lived in a world with Kaladesh, and we begged them for answers. Please, God, make it stop. Let us do something to make this stop. And they just didn't give you any answers. And this time they're like, okay, boys and girls, you wanted your stopgap, in case of alarm? Here it is.
Yeah.
Okay. My God. All right. We got to keep moving here. So, Reuben, what are the cards you want to talk about?
I mean, there's so much to choose from. It's a embarrassment of riches, but I'm going to start with the first common way to deal with a Planeswalker, I believe, that there's ever been, if that's accurate.
As far as I know. Yeah.
So Spark Harvest is going to be a common in the new set. It is 1 black mana sorcery, and as an additional cost to cast the spell, you either sacrifice a creature or pay 4 additional mana. Destroy target creature or Planeswalker. That is insane. The level of common removal in this set, from Ob Nixilis's 3 mana instant speed -5/-5 to this, to Jaya's 3 damage, is insane. Typically, black will get a common removal spell for 5 mana in draft rounds. Things like Gloomlance, Deadly Visit, give you a little bit of upside. The amount of upside that this has is ridiculous. Yeah. The variability plus the ability to take care of a Planeswalker is huge. Limited is going to be very strange because of all the uncommon Planeswalkers, and now the common ability to get rid of those Planeswalkers for a very low cost.
Yeah. Also, the art, very pivotal moment. You see Domri, who was, manipulated by Bolas, was kind of leading the charge in the last set, is now having his spark taken away. And Mark Rosewater on Blog Talk confirmed that the process of spark removal is lethal. So if I understand that correctly, that means Domri might be no more.
Right.
I had to laugh, though. There was a tweet that somebody posted where it was like, Planeswalker work, he's not going to take my spark, says Planeswalker working with Dragon to take spark.
I saw that.
Yeah, that was great. And this is throw the F in the chat to pay your respects, everybody, because good old Domri ate it, and that's unfortunate. Domri, as they say, he played himself. He immediately saw Bolus, immediately latched on, and immediately regretted it. As it were.
Is we also have the Ineffable in this set. So press Ineffable to pay. All right.
Wow.
I want to talk about Gideon Blackblade.
Let's do it.
Because I like attacking, and this Planeswalker, boy howdy, is this a heck of a Planeswalker. So Gideon Blackblade is a 3-mana legendary Planeswalker Gideon, loyalty 4. As long as it's your turn, Gideon is a 4/4 human soldier creature that's indestructible, that's still a Planeswalker, prevent all damage that would be dealt to Gideon Blackblade during your turn. Can you imagine a world where it just said that? I think I'd still play it. I think I would still play this card in my mono white deck to just have a 4/4 on my just to attack with a 4/4. But no. Additionally, up to 1 target creature you control gains your choice of Vigilance, Lifelink, or Indestructible until end of turn for +1. So you can rumble in there with your 2-drop. So you go, let's say you go 1-drop Sky Marcher Aspirant, 2-drop Adonto Vanguard, 3-drop Gideon, target your Aspirant, and attack with 2 3-power indestructible potentially creatures. That's a lot. That is a lot for a white deck. And this also survives Wraths, which is super great as well. So your Kaya's Wraths and whatnot aren't going to be able to take this thing down. Oh, by the way, -6, exile target non-land permanent.
Jeez.
Quite a bit to get up to, but it does solve a lot of the problems that the mono white deck can have. If your opponent has one of those Masterminds Acquisitions decks and they go and wish for Ethereal Absolution, or they start gaining a bunch of card advantage thanks to a Vivian Reed or an Immortal Sun, this is able to claw you back into those games thanks to Gideon's partnership with the Blackblade.
I want to go back to our previous topic for just a second. Mythic Spoiler, credit where it's due, just tweeted that they now have a setting on their website where you can choose hide unofficial spoilers, and that way you will not see them. So we like to compliment as well as re-criticize, and so that's a really cool change, and shout out to them.
That is fantastic. And did it during our show?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't want to say.
I don't know. That's not just because of us, but that means they were listening, and that's a good thing. And you can experience the season, the preview season, spoiler for SEO, but previews for officials. You can still appreciate it and not have to get everything just sort of kind of ruined in many ways. Like, they didn't have to tell you that in-game footage leaked. They could just be like, you know what? Thanos says no spoilers.
Right.
Don't do that. That's awful.
# don't spoil the Spark game.
Right. Okay. Moving on. What's the last card?
It's the end game.
What's the last card you want to talk about?
The last card I want to talk about is God Eternal Kefnet, because the God Eternals came out last Thursday.
Now, how did you see this one? Because doesn't Cedric still have you blocked?
Right.
Wow.
I had to wait for this one to be put
That's for the hot tub comments.
Actually, no, he doesn't. We're still friends on Facebook, and he doesn't have me blocked on Instagram. He only has me blocked on Twitter. So I don't know.
I respect the petty.
I am confused by the petty, but I'll still respect the petty. So anyway, God Eternal Kefnet is, all of the gods are kind of ridiculous. I think that I identify more as a Ronus kind of person. And you liked Bantu a lot, obviously. We're all weighted. Obviously, I'm an Ilhard guy to my core. Shout out to the old gods and the old ways. I stan an end race. Is what I do. But God Eternal Kefnet is ridiculous and performs miracles. So God Eternal Kefnet is 2 colorless blue for legendary creature Zombie God. Now, if there was a combination of creature types that Erin would be attracted to, I think it's Zombie God, and we have a whole cycle of them, which is great. 4/5 with flying for 4 mana. Probably already playing this card, right? Better than Air Elemental. 4/4 flyer for 4 is going to be good enough. 4/5 flyer for 4, that when it dies or is put into exile, you get it long-term plans. You put it third from the top of your library.
Right.
And, oh, by the way. The icing on this already delicious cake is you may reveal the first card you draw each turn as you draw it. Whenever you reveal an instant or sorcery card this way, copy that card, and you may cast the copy. That copy costs 2 less to cast. So similar to the miracle mechanic, but you don't spend the card.
Right.
So you still get to draw the card, and then later, cast it again, and it does get a little bit of a discount. So, for example, if you're trying to cast like a Wrath, this would be 2 mana if you're casting actual Wrath of God or Damnation or something like that.
Right.
Or if you're trying to commence the end game, cost 4, and then you just get to commence the end game in your hand. I'm sure that there are going to be people who are going to be practicing with this in the older formats where the spells are even more ridiculous.
I mean,
it's just a great card.
Look, think of just Chemist's Insight. Okay, that's a very commonly played. It's a 4/of. First of all, the wording of this card is really odd. You copy it
a couple times.
You copy it, but then you got to pay for it. Wait a minute, what? I get it. I'm sure it has something to do with the rules and templating, but the point is,
pay for both.
Well, no. What you would do is you'd reveal your card, and you're like, oh, it's Chemist's Insight. Now a copy is put on the stack.
Okay.
You can pay a blue and a generic mana.
Okay.
And you will cast that put on the stack copy.
And it doesn't cost you the card in your hand.
Does not cost you the card in your hand.
Wow.
You draw that, you draw the Chemist's Insight, and then you draw the 2 more for the one it put on the stack. And that's insane. And that's just such insane value. And note the way it's worded. It's the first card you draw each turn. So if you're able to draw cards on their turn with opt or whatever, you go, oh, look, let's see if this is an instant or sorcery. Oh, look, now it's cheaper. I commence the end game for 4 mana and I get one in my hand.
And you also don't have to turn these particular gods on. You don't need devotion. You don't have to meet the clauses where, Bantu, you had to sacrifice something. Kefnet, you needed so many cards in your hand. They're live. They hit the table and they can attack or block. That's huge.
Well, they're zombies, so they're dead.
Right. So they're dead.
What's wrong with that?
All right, we got to keep moving. Aaron, tell us about your cards.
Speaking of the dead, my first card is a card that was spoiled today, in fact, by Carlos Ramal. It is Command the Dreadhorde. So this one is 4 colorless and 2 black. It's a sorcery. You can choose any number of target creature and or planeswalker cards in graveyards. Command the Dreadhorde deals damage to you equal to the total converted mana cost of these cards. Put them onto the battlefield under your control. Oh my god. I was in a meeting when this one, I had seen the first half because Carlos decided he was going to spoil half the card and then give you the bottom card a little bit later. And so I had seen the art. I saw the name and we were left to kind of figure out what it was. And then I got out of a meeting, I was in the elevator and I just gasped and I was like, and of course people tagged me, Nick, 'cause anything with graveyard I get tagged in it. They're like, Aaron. And I was like, this card is amazing. And people have been joking about pairing this with the Wanderer or even pairing it with Soulfire Grandmaster and just really janky ways to have the downside not be such a downside. And I'm completely here for it. So yes.
I don't think the Wanderer plus this card, which, by the way, if you don't know, the Wanderer is one of the new planeswalkers that prevents all non-combat damage. Because, no, this thing deals you damage. It does not lose life like a lot of black cards do. It's very specific, and I think that's important. So you play that on 4, and then you do something, you do crazy mill stuff in the meantime, and then on turn 6, you're like, oh, look, I'll just take 1,000,000 damage, quote-unquote, when you take nothing, and now you have everything. Now, Magical Christmas Land.
This is the scene from that fabulous 6 million views trailer where Liliana turns on Bolas with the army. In addition, I know that you get tagged in a lot of graveyard garbage, Aaron.
So chat's saying that the Wanderer doesn't work the way that we want it to.
Well, no, you need to have it in play. You're not reanimating the Wanderer. You need the Wanderer in play.
I thought you said, but chat started revolting, so I wasn't sure.
It's not like how Madcap Experiment and Platinum Imperion work.
Right.
This specifically is worded so that doesn't work. But if you already have the Wanderer in play, you just get everything for free. Yeah.
Right.
But I know you get tagged in a lot of random graveyard. Anytime the word graveyard is put on a Magic card, people are like, "Oh my God, Aaron, this is playable in Dredge." I'm not sure I've seen a more Aaron Campbell card than this.
This is it too. Yeah.
This one is terrific. That said, what's your next card?
So the next card that I picked is a card that was actually leaked over the weekend and then officially spoiled on Monday. This one is Blast Zone.
Yeah.
So Blast Zone is a land. It says Blast Zone enters the battlefield with a charge counter on it. Doesn't enter tapped, so it enters into play untapped. You can tap it for just a normal old Wingding or a colorless. You can pay XX to tap it. And then you get to put X charge counters on Blast Zone, or you can pay 3 colorless and tap it, sacrifice Blast Zone to destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on Blast Zone. It's basically like an engineered explosives that you can loam, you can Crucible of Worlds, you can just loop this thing if you wanted to. This is gross, and I look forward to playing with this in some capacity. And also too, people. This card came out when the Notre Dame fire happened.
Oh boy.
And there were some people who thought they were funny and put pictures of Notre Dame as it was burning in here. Yeah. Don't do that. And if you know people who are doing that, slap those hands, because that was tacky as hell.
It's more of this
Don't do that.
It's more of this clickbait stuff that people are just like, you know, short term.
Look, all I know is that Loam just got ratchet. You know what I'm saying? Because we're getting up in this. We're gonna every turn we're just gonna.
He can say whatever.
Whatever. I ratchet. Look, there's a whole grocery store thing. It's in the pre-show. You guys will understand.
Evan's gonna dab on him soon. Is what's gonna happen. So
wow. I'm telling you, this card. This card is insane. This card is absolutely terrific with the proliferate in the set. It's amazing. The ability to play it 3 mana, get rid of all the 1-drops. Nice Boggles deck you got there. Like, you know, this is a card that is meant to rock metagames, and I think it is absolutely going to. This thing is insane for what it does. It's crazy.
Allow me to be Aaron Campbell for a moment.
Oh boy.
Why? Why? Who's asking for this? Like, why does this exist? We have Crucible still in standard.
Yeah, we do.
With Blast Zone. So this, I think that the reason... Now, I think that this is tempered a little bit because you can't get rid of a field full of 0-cost stuff with Blast Zone. You can't get rid of the amass tokens.
Not without some effort. There is a way to remove tokens, but...
There is a way to remove counters from things.
Which we'll get to.
Comes in with the 1. And it is a ratchet bomb, so it is a little bit ratchet. And so, yeah, this is just I mean, I saw this and could not believe that it was a Magic card. Again, and that's happened a number of times this set. They're just going completely bananas in Warfare.
The power level is just ridiculous. Yeah. But let's talk about this last card, Aaron.
So my last card is a huge story moment, another one for Liliana, and giving a new take on black, if you will. Price of Betrayal is 1 black. It's a sorcery. Remove up to 5 counters from target artifact, creature, planeswalker, or opponent. Doesn't work on lands, so you can't remove counters from the Blast Zone, but this would have been nice to have when energy was a thing, being able to remove energy counters. You can deal with planeswalkers, you can deal with artifacts, walking ballista kind of thing. I mean, obviously they'll remove it in response, but creatures, an opponent, experience counters, that's another thing commander players might recognize if you were playing Daxos or any commander from that set of characters as well. For 1 black, and this is a really important moment where Liliana defies Nicol Bolas. You see her kind of getting set on fire from breaking free in the trailer, and this is that moment of her shedding all of that, being vulnerable, but deciding that it's worth it anyways. And so this was also a huge moment and just a really neat take on black.
Yeah, it says here, the moment Liliana defied Nicol Bolas, her contract was broken and her life was forfeit, but she was free to choose her fate, and she decided it was worth the price. Yep. This card is, now look, at one point in time, Mark Rosewater had mentioned that there was no way to remove poison counters. That was a big deal. There was nothing they could do. Leeches was a huge mistake. What were they thinking? And we have 1 black remove 5 poison counters from yourself? Like, seriously? I was not expecting this. If this had just said, artifact or creature or planeswalker or whatever, I've been like, okay, it's good. So killing planeswalkers is what we're supposed to do. But on players, that is amazing, honestly.
Yeah, it's pretty. I wish we had this for energy, but better late than never. This is able to take care of.
Yeah, you can't remove it from yourself.
Okay, you can't remove it from yourself. I'm sorry, I miss actually.
Right, can't remove it from yourself. But in
the man doesn't even watch his own content. You think he reads the cards?
The thing was spoiled tonight, for God's sake. Sorry.
1 mana. So this is another really nice scalpel, though.
Yes.
1 mana being able to take out very specific things. Because you look at this card and you're like, man, the rate on this is insane. And then it's just dead against a lot of cards. It's pretty spectacular.
Wow. And yes, its opponent, I'm sorry, guys. Jesus Christ. But chat was just like, Evan, this is it. We're done. We're throwing down now.
Right.
Like, okay.
You can't target your own sagas, for example.
Fair enough. It is opponent stuff, and I'm happily killing planeswalkers for 1 black mana. That sounds like a good time.
I could target my own sagas. I wouldn't need you to do it.
Heyo.
I don't.
We're not sure. We're moving on. Gather the townsfolk here. Well, look, there is a streamer event, an early access. Evan missed the invite and had to go ask them nicely because I just wasn't paying attention, and I'm sorry. But we snuck in, and we will be featuring War of the Spark here on this channel next Tuesday.
That's right. So all of you lovely Magic Mike's folks, who, by the way, y'all still need to name yourselves. We don't have a good idea of what to do with that.
Yeah, what do you want to call yourselves?
Right. Remember when we said mic stands one time, and that was the worst idea anyone had ever come up with in the history of ideas?
I kind of like that. Yeah. But anyway, the point is that if y'all mic stands have any deck lists that you want us to play, ship them our direction.
Absolutely.
You know, anything with mountains, don't send to Erin, obviously. But you know, we want all of your awesome ideas, and we'll be taking shifts during the streamer event.
Yeah. So we're going to figure out how our schedule is going to work. Obviously, we'll announce that stuff on Twitter and Facebook and the rest subreddit and all that good stuff. But this is happening again. They did it last time, and it was a super fun time. They give us an account that is stacked. We make Erin play on MTG Arena, and she hates it. It's great. It's fantastic.
I had a lovely time last time. That damn rope. Maybe
God account,
but it was fine.
You and that rope. Well, you're going to be back on the rope again, as it were.
Story of my life.
That didn't sound right. Well, look.
I don't know what's happening anymore.
All I know is there is a new video from Sam from Mystic Studies. It is the Structures of Ravnica, already over 6 figures of views. It is terrific. He is terrific. His work's terrific, and we're lucky to have him. That's pretty much the long and short of it.
So I have a Dungeons and Dragons show that recently wrapped up called The Broken Pact, and one of the players on that show is named Riley Silverman. Riley does not play Magic. She knows nothing about War of the Spark. She could not give 2 craps about Magic the Gathering, the game. Loves playing in Ravnica, loves the world of Ravnica and the game that we're playing in, but the cards are disinteresting. She watched this and was like, that was a spectacular video. And just was like spellbound by this work. Just another masterpiece from Sam. Every time he puts something out, it's an event. Twitter is all abuzz about it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't go to church, but I watch Sam's videos, and it's a collective event like that.
That's terrific. So congratulations to Sam, obviously, with the terrific job he did there, and go check out that video if you haven't seen it already. Moving on here to the Mythic Championship qualifiers, and we've got even more tea, as it were, here later. But first, let's just talk about how totally sweet the promo is for the Mythic Championship qualifiers. So they're going to happen between May 4th and June 16th. They're going to be standard constructed with a capacity from anywhere between 129 and 226 players. And that has a promo card on here in front of you now, if you're watching, of Arcbound Ravager. He is a good boy, and he's worth a ton of money. This is a $45 rare now, not just the promo card. So, and yeah, so this is basically a surprise, in my opinion. This was Arcbound Ravager being the promo card for participation in the Mythic Championship qualifiers. That's value. Wizards didn't have to go that far. They didn't have to give something that good, essentially, and that expensive. Because right now, and honestly, the way it's worked out with a lot of these championship qualifiers, that the entry fee of, let's say, $30 is going to be less than what this card is going to be worth. So you could just register 60 islands and get your value because you're a Magic player, or you could, just pay $30, get this incredible promo, and then play for prizes, and maybe you'll get the invite itself. But the Arcbound Ravager itself, that to me, again, says that Wizards is serious about really supporting stores and the premium stores and the stores that work hard to get these types of events, because this is the type of promo that gets butts in seats.
That's right. I saw there was some debate about some people didn't like the new art. I like it. I love it. I think it's great. I think it makes total sense and groks for the creature type and for what the kind of creature this is, being a lightning hound kind of art. I'm sure that the shiny foil version of it looks spectacular. Yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it's really terrific, and I think they did a great job. We have a positive story next. One, Pat's Games got back their Alpha Ancestral Recall after being burglarized. It took them 3 years, 3 months, and 9 days.
Wow.
To get that Ancestral back. But, maybe it just appreciated so much in the interim there.
Right.
They kind of forced them into appreciating the gains on this card, because it's a lot more expensive now than it was 3 years, 3 months, and 9 days ago.
I feel like even in the last, since the year started, wasn't there a week recently where there were like 2 burglaries? Where like, and there was the one, I don't know if we covered it on the store, where they crawled through like the lights, like they went through the ceiling, like it was a fake heist.
Yeah. Jeez.
Broke into the store, and it's always terrible when, it's one thing to steal valuable items, but it's another when this is, LGS is our community hubs. These are places that you go to feel, like you belong and to feel safe. And so I remember my apartment when I was in high school, my mom and I got broken into, and our apartment got ransacked. And my mom never really recovered from that. Like, even when they found out who did it, and even when they got our stuff back, that scars you in a really, really big way. And so, to be the owners, obviously that's very, damaging to you, but to your community, to see a place that you go to and that you might have literally grown up and be demolished and glasses smashed and cards taken, that hurts. And so I'm glad to hear that there was a positive outcome to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And from I've never heard anything but great things about Pat's Games in Austin, Texas there. Haven't been there myself. We never went there with when I was working on the Open Series. But Austin has a great gaming scene in general, and so I can't think of anything bad to say about that. I have a personal rivalry with Austin because they tried to steal my soccer team, but we'll set that aside. I think that in general, we do have to talk about these theft issues and these theft stories for a number of reasons. Supporting our local LGSs, of course. Your friendly local game store is a huge reason why Magic survives and thrives. In addition to the fact that Magic cards as investments is a fact of life that we recognize, but most people don't know how to quantify.
Yes.
It's super tough to insure. They're extremely difficult to get through the legal process when they're stolen. And so the 3 months and 3 years here, probably a lot of that was just this Ancestral was sitting in a lockbox in lockup at the local police department.
Yeah, you try calling the police and they laugh at you. They just assume it's like a card game. A friend of mine recently, 2 weeks ago, just got divorced. And I remember we went out to dinner. We went out to a Brazilian steakhouse, and he was kind of telling us about things that kind of happened after the marriage was over. And he was like, yeah, she took all of my bedding and my sheets. I don't have any sheets. And we were like, that's terrible. And he was like, and she's keeping my last name. I don't really know why. And we were like, what a troll. And then he was like, and she got my cards. And we were just like, what? And he was like, she basically took them when she packed her stuff. He didn't know about it until after sort of the divorce was over. He's like, what was I supposed to do? Like, what am I supposed to say? These people don't know what it is. On the Managerain, which is sort of the vintage boards, there have been many threads of like, these guys with thousands of dollars worth of cards. What do you do? Like, who has prenups? I play a lot of expensive cards, I'm not giving away my diamonds, and the law doesn't really recognize it. The law thinks of these things as toys, as trinkets. And so when you try to go to them, they don't get it. And you don't often get the help that you need.
Luckily, we're starting to see, I think, a few more stories of the police actually believing that these things have value. And, like, for example, there was the Magic Online theft. I'm not sure if we actually got to cover it last week, but there was a Magic Online... Yeah, that Magic Online theft where the police followed up and the person was arrested because it was theft of that regard. But no serial numbers on Magic cards is a problem. The fact that it's a children's card game, quote unquote, is a problem. But, again, as time rolls on and as Black Lotus gets more and more into the news, cycle when crazy things happen and it's sold for 6 figures,
right,
I think they'll start to be taken a little bit more seriously. We can hope. That said, there was a fun article on Cool Stuff Inc. by one Mike Linneman about the shift to traditional paintings.
Yeah, this was fascinating. It
was really
I
neat.
loved this.
Yeah, he has an interview with 4 different artists here where he talks about their style and how they've used digital and how they've used physical. And long story, too long, didn't read version. You're going to make a lot more money because you can sell the oil painting.
Sell the original copy, yeah.
Right.
One of the artists that he talks to is Svetlin Velinov, who did the art for Tyrant Scorn, our preview card.
Yeah.
And I believe it's already posted as for sale. And so, yeah, it's another nice boost to the paycheck. Being an artist is tough. We know. We're different kinds of artists, but we know. And being a visual artist is even harder in some ways, what with materials, the gig economy being what it is, the difficulty of maintaining and delivering on what kind of skills and what kind of pieces you want for demanding folks like, I don't know, Wizards of the Coast. And so this was a really insightful look into that kind of life and a small piece of it that's been developing.
I'm also grateful that we have people like Mike who can sort of help these artists out, because we've seen this a little bit with the artist boycott of a lot of artists not necessarily knowing, how to be social, how to network. Being an artist doesn't necessarily translate to being a business person. So, right. Just because you know how to paint or you know how to work a digital, computer or whatever, you may not know how to market yourself. You may not know how to get the word out there. You may not know how to conduct an auction. You may not know what your stuff is worth. And so I appreciate that there are people out there like Mike who are kind of helping them navigate that space so that they don't get taken advantage of and they do get treated what they're worth.
Right. And this gives incentive for magic artists to really put in the work, because it's tough to deal with physical artwork. It's very demanding. It's very unforgiving if you were to make a mistake. One of the artists in there says that they almost basically finish the painting digitally and then they just do it again traditionally, because again, look at Noah Bradley's. They commence the Endgame. It's at $8,000 right now.
Looking at Noah Bradley is never difficult.
Well, there you go. And that's great, because again, this is the incentive for being a magic artist. When you've made it and when you're able to create these pieces and then sell them for easily multiple thousands of dollars is usually like the floor. It's like $1,500 to $2,000 no matter what it is. So
that's also the luck aspect. Another thing that happened with the artist boycott was, some artists got really lucky and their art is on powerful cards, right. But sometimes you might get a piece of art that is on like a 5th tier common that doesn't see any play, and so nobody's going to ask you to sign it. No one's going to buy a playmat of that. No one's going to ask you for a print for that. But if you happen to do iconic cards like RK Post, who's done Lightning Angel and Icarid, cards that he can just coast
Fulminator Mage,
that's something some artists can't. They don't really get a lot of say in.
Right, and you got to get lucky that way, and you got to kind of work towards that, and there's got to be, all the things have to happen, the luck and the skill and all that stuff, where Noah was able to be in a position to get that art commission and be able to do that and execute on it so well.
Just today, in fact, was like, so Death Shadow's like popular. Here's playmats.
Yeah, exactly.
Had no idea, that this innocuous little card, is now a tier 1 archetype in at least one format. Legacy gets up there. And he's like, I should probably print some stuff.
I also really enjoyed the focus in the article on taking a little look into the artists' lives, like a little peek. And the risks and rewards of pursuing your passion as a career. And I think that it was just nice to see. It was just a nice little human interest piece that also had this really relevant development in the overarching zeitgeist of the art world.
So let's talk a little bit about Loading Ready Run's pre-release that is happening in, 2 days now?
Right.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Yeah. So, Reuben, you tell us who's in it and what they're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, every pre-release features some of our favorite folks, and this PPR is no different. Use the hashtag LRRWAR to talk about it on social media. Leading off with TappyToeClaws.
Yes,
really popular cosplayer. 3 dinosaurs in a human suit, who's also a dinosaur suit on top of that. Infectiously wonderful person, Erin. You get to hang out with her all the time, and
she's local, so we get to hang out quite frequently. She's not only somebody that you can kick it with, but she's somebody that you can call at 2 in the morning when you're heartbroken, and she'll be there for you. She's amazing.
That's spectacular. Another of the guests is Adam Coble, perhaps better known as SkinnyGhost on the Twitters and the social medias. One of the creators of Dungeon World, which is a hugely popular role-playing game, also makes a lot of Magic the Gathering content, including a role-playing game show on the D&D channel called Jace Beleren Must Die.
That's amazing.
It's a fabulous concept for a show. Highly recommend. Got some really talented role players on there, like Carlos Luna, who's on Rivals of Waterdeep and some other shows like that. Adam Coble, also a really talented photographer in his spare time as well, and you know, he's notable for the pink mohawk. Also, you might recognize just an excellent human being, and can't wait to have the Magic community learn more about Adam Coble going forward. Of course, Denis Stranjek, who is the Channel Fireball events guru, the head honcho over there with
hashtag accents.
That's right. Got a lovely accent, and also does the top fives for Channel Fireball with Riley Knight. Used to be part of the Win Millionaires, now doing all that Channel Fireball goodness, and super excited to see him. The last member, the last guest, Mark Heggen, I know almost nothing about, because Mark Heggen has no social media presence. And so I'm really excited to see exactly what Mark Heggen is all about, in addition to the regular Loading Ready Run crew of Graham and Kathleen and Cam and, of course, Adam Savadan.
Heyo. They're currently... Yes, the water level in the basement is rising.
He's best boy, yeah.
All right, let's move on here to Desperate Ravings. And if I'm going to rave about something, let's go ahead and rave it up. Boy. Wizards.
Right, it's time to have a seat in Evan Irwin's sales corner.
Uh-oh.
You screwed it up. You took a good thing.
One job.
You took a thing that it's a very classic Wizards thing, okay? Wizards has a norm of whenever they do something for the first time, they do it so well, they go, oh God, we're sorry, we can't do that. And in some ways that's a good thing, because when they first made vehicles, you know, Smuggler's Copter popped out, oops, sorry, screwed that up. When they first made equipment, oh, well, you know, the Bone Splitters into the Umazawa Jittes, you know, jumped out, oops, sorry. They fixed that over time. But we now have the Challenger decks from last year.
Well, somebody has them, but we don't.
Well, from the ones from last year, I bought one that had 30 rares in it because I could just play the freaking deck, and I could not believe they were going to give me 4 Heart of Kirans in a $30 precon. That's just bananas. Even if I had to pay more than MSRP, quote unquote, the fact is the deck was all there. There was no running around getting stuff. And Wizards, you just screwed it up. You tried to pull back. You tried to say all that value that you got, we recognize, but we're not going to give it to you again. You too Jadelight Rangered me, okay? You did not include Vraska's Condemned. You did not include even one freaking Carnage Tyrant. No, just give me one. Like, you couldn't even give me that. You can't give me what you would expect. You give me one Shockland. Okay, cool. You lucked out because that Phoenix is as dumb as it is, and you gave him 3 Sulfur Falls because reasons, but you then give me 2 History of Benalia? Don't give me that crap. And guess what, Wizards? The sales suck. The sales suck. And they ain't flying off the shelves like they used to because you too Jadelight Rangered it. You screwed it up.
I was prepared to actually buy the red one. Like, the red one had me excited. Experimental Frenzy is a hell of a drug. But when I saw the list that came out, that was the only list that excited me. And had it been like a real full red deck that I could have picked up and putzed around with and gone to F&M, I absolutely would have bought it. But there was no way I was buying a half of the deck, even if it is just a red deck. I mean, this was just a huge ball that was dropped. And for what reason? Like, I don't understand. Is it that they lost money on it? Is it, I don't understand the need to apologize for success, or the need to, you would think the opposite would be true, that if something was successful, if it ain't broke, why fix it? And this is just one of many examples where they can't help themselves. You know, we kind of saw it with those box toppers too. You know, you had an amazing set, and then it was like, here are these tier 2.5 planeswalkers that nobody cares about with this hand-me-down art. And it was just like why can't you just let good things happen? I don't get it.
It was particularly confusing based on how they had built the ones last year. or the last Challenger decks, and seeing the numbers was a little bit strange. Not having 4 Legions landings, not having 4 Jade Light Rangers, not having 4 of the rares from the sets that are leaving Standard soon was what was really confusing to me. The decks last year did not have this problem. Setting aside the Mardu Vehicles deck, which was, I think, an aberration, and I think was probably too much. The other 3 decks were still really good value. The Approach of the Second Sun deck being really emblematic of what I think a Challenger deck should and could be. Giving you all of the pieces to be competitive, to pick up and play, open a box, and immediately shuffle up those cards and play them, and not be ashamed and not really have to do too much to it to play it at your FNM.
Right.
These decks feel like you have to buy 2 of them and like Frankenstein them together to make a good deck.
Yeah.
This is
less than ideal.
Right, and someone mentioned sort of in the chat that said, you know, somebody from sales was like, "You sold what for $30?" When ultimately it was that was why it was so impressive, and that's why it was so much like I have to get this product because they've never done this before. And then they said, "Oh well, let's just go ahead and cut it in half, make sure that you know we're communicating to you that you need to learn how to deck build, and you need to understand that 4 History of Benalia is what you really want for your white deck, or however you want to explain it away." The fact that you made them worse and now sales are worse and it just sucks. And a lot of these decks are just going to get busted for singles because they're not going to sell as decks.
It's very, I mean, particularly because Wizards of the Coast famously doesn't recognize the secondary market.
Right.
So I don't get it. I don't get what the change was about. And as you're saying, from a sales perspective, whatever the decision was, it did not pay off. From
the retailer perspective, Wizards, you screwed it up. Well, whoever won the argument and said, yes, we're going to make them worse, okay, tell them to shut up because they're wrong and they didn't fix it and it's bad. Bring it back the person who was like, let's put 30 rares in this deck. Yes, I know it sounds insane. That's why it's going to work. Listen to that person because that person knew what was going on. Okay, sorry, that was my rant. My Wizards... Come on, you can do better than this. All right, speaking of doing better, there is a Mythic Championship qualifier going on. And they said that there will be no L2 judge. There will be an in-store L1 judge. And the prizing, at least originally, as it was reported, was only the invite. Now, I think, first of all, that's a little outrageous to pay $30, which is what they had said, to get the promo, which, again, is an expensive promo. That's a good thing. But to have no prizes for an event that's going to bring in quite a bit of income, to have no L2 is the real kicker and the real conversation. Later, they came back and said, we're going to give away some more of the Spark Packs based on your finish or whatever. But, again, the point is you're going to run what is essentially a PTQ with a very awesome promo that people want to show up and get for the biggest event that we now have in Paper Magic, for an event that doesn't have anything above an L1, sort of adjudicating problems, questions, when disputes, deck checks, all this type of stuff, which is probably not going to happen when it's just the guy behind the counter.
This was terribly confusing to me when I saw it as a story and was like, how like logistically speaking,
right,
what's the best case scenario here?
Well, it was interesting to note that it's not technically wrong. Like from what I was seeing from a lot of judges and a lot of people replying to the initial thread, they're only required to have a judge. There's nothing that says that it has to be an L2. There's nothing to say that it has to be an employee or it can't be an employee. They can literally just get the guy behind the counter who happens to be an L1, and technically it's enough. And there's nothing that really says that there needs to be a certain level of price support. So it was really kind of walking that line of like, is it illegal versus is it ethical? You know what I mean? And so really nice discussion. I've been following a lot of judges on the matter. And then the store itself made a statement. And so, the store came out and made kind of the questionable statement, #PR-nightmares. And so it's been a lot to take in, and it's still raging. There's still a lot of discussion happening about it. And, it's also a bit of a bummer for judges, because judges are a very important part of this community. And shout out to Ricky Hayashi that made a tweet, and he was like, we want to make your events better, but you need to invite us. You need to hire us. You need to find us worth compensating, please let us make your events better. And so I really appreciate the judges that are not only kind of debunking the information, but also just kind of spreading the message that we want to make your events better. We don't take any glee in watching your events fall apart because you didn't bring a judge. Just, we want to help.
The store owner posted a response, and I'll go ahead and link it in the chat. It was awkward.
Kind of petty.
It was a little petty. Well, ultimately, what they said was they threw Wizards under the bus, saying that recently some Magic judges sued Wizards, claiming they were de facto employees of Wizards and were due certain benefits, and this is true. As far as I know, this is still ongoing litigation. That said, Wizards' response was to immediately distance themselves from the judge program, which they absolutely have, and send out a letter to retailers stating that judges were now employees of the stores. This has been a death blow to the judge program because the state of California dictates to retailers how employees are paid. Yep. No more under-the-table deals of boxes for the work. Now everything has to be above board. And they asked several of our judges, including L2, if they would like a job. We were turned down, but most do this as a fun gig and don't want to sell product or clean bathrooms in addition to judging events, and I understand. So what you're telling me is that there is no way, there's no store in California that has L2s working its events and has not employed them full time. That's what you're trying to tell me. There's no way to contract an employee for a certain amount or for certain compensation that you agree upon. That kind of happens every day. That's weird. And this is our gig economy, right? That's how that works, right?
California is particularly not great with the gig economy. Having just moved here, I am well aware of this. And happy tax day, everybody.
Did you even file taxes this year?
I did. I did file taxes this year, and California is a GD nightmare for trying to deal with all of it because it's worse in California. Everything is worse in California when it comes to doing your taxes. So on the one hand, I commiserate with that issue. But on the other hand, it's like, I don't particularly care whose fault this was. How are you gonna have an event and then think to yourself, oh, I don't need to have it based on the rules set forth by Wizards of the Coast, then I won't do it? Like, can't you see that I just don't get it. I just don't understand where you get off thinking that you can get away with something like this by saying, oh, it wasn't necessary.
Wizards, well, look, again, if Wizards and Wizards Organized Play, which I feel like, because of this WPN Premium, Wizards is paying attention in ways that I haven't seen them pay attention in years. So if you're paying attention, Wizards, if you're listening in some capacity, please, for God's sake, talk to this organizer and explain that you don't want to have a situation where MCQs are like this weird Wild West and the L1 guy behind the counter is convinced of whatever ruling they're convinced of, and something's going to go terribly wrong because someone couldn't spend a couple $100 or whatever in cash or product or whatever to get someone to officiate that event. That's a problem.
I just want to highlight the petty comment that made my heart swell a little bit. So the tournament organizer starts off their statement with, "Hello all, boy, this was a mess. Yeah. Let me see if I can help straighten things out and put forth a few issues that have guided our actions in this and apparently caused consternation in the community." No, not apparently, did. And then the best part, although I recognized very few people who play regularly at my shop making comments. What? What does that have to do with anything?
Yikes.
Your comment.
Hashtag boy, this was a mess.
I am here. Like, I am here for your statement needs. But like, to lead off with that is some shade. Like, what?
Woo! Your comment is invalid because I don't recognize who you are.
Don't come to my store. Oh my God.
That is +1 yikes, everybody.
As a Magic player, I'm offended. But as a content creator, I'm living.
All right, so we're running out of time. I want to touch on one more story. This would be for splash damage, and I think I just copy and pasted it wrong. Reuben, you don't want to take this to the red zone, did you?
No.
About Transformers, whatever.
Uh-oh.
I was like, wow, man, you got some strong feelings?
I don't even know what we're talking about.
So Transformers TCG is one of the new games from Wizards of the Coast.
Transformers Mafia.
There you go. And they broke it. They have a infinite combo deck that goes infinite really quickly, and they've never encountered this before because the game is so new. This is like the second set, or they just announced the third set, and they said, well, what are we supposed to do here? They had a variety of options. When a game is brand new like that, you could do things like restricting cards just to one. You could do things like you can only take one extra turn and just have that be a rule in the rule book.
Can we talk about the fact that I made... Can we talk about the fact that I made a Transformers Mafia joke, and the card in question is called Swap Parts?
The card that they banned is Swap Parts, y'all. It's for real. So, and this is one of the reasons why I liked the sort of the announcement so much, is because in Transformers TCG they don't have a banned list. They have a retired list. So when you're done swapping your parts, you retire, swap the parts over here.
Listen, I hope to retire after I swap my parts.
And the Transformers Mafia rolls on. Yeah. Roll out.
Oh, God.
Roll out.
Roll out. Oh, my God. All right.
Hashtag swap parts Mafia.
Like a fruit roll-up. I'm done.
Wow. Wow.
It is adorable to see other TCGs go through the growing pains that Magic the Gathering has had for literal decades, and be like, oh, you sweet summer children, having to deal with infinite combos for the very first time. I appreciate your growth. I understand that we all have to take our first steps together. We all lose our first tooth. We all get, we all have our first breakup. We all stub our toe for the first time. And so RIP swap parts.
Well, do note, hashtag
Transformers Mafia to pay respects.
I am available to sign any copies of swap parts that you might have. Just saying.
Oh my God, you've ruined fruit snacks for people, Erin. You've ruined them. Well, lead designer is Ken Nagel. Ken Nagel works on Magic products. So
and Drew Nolasco was who wrote this post as well, who's another from Magic originally.
Yeah, so they've taken some resources away from Magic to kind of try out some different games. Also, a lot of designers in Magic will go and work on things like Duel Masters in Japan.
God, there's a card called I Still Function.
Yeah.
I Still Function. That's right. That's what it does.
I Still Function.
Let's after you swap parts.
I Still Function.
Let's pick a winner.
No, I have to.
We gotta pick a winner. Let's pick a winner to our $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com.
And the winner is
I hit the button. I'm waiting on it. Is Asher1127.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Please hit up the ever so giggling Erin Campbell.
It's true.
Talk to us, the moderators on subreddit. Whisper to her here. Do whatever you got to do. Smoke signal. We'll figure it out. So, that said, we're going to, before we move on to the finisher, we're going to thank our new subs and our resubs, as well as our bits and whatnot. Yeah. So, let's go here. Tatakai? I think that's right. Tatakai has subscribed to Prime.
Weeks.
Starting off strong.
Working it good, y'all. A Little Aloof has resubbed for 12 months. Paper anniversary for a card game. A Little Aloof, you are terrific.
Thank you.
I have a mission to get emotes and badges and stuff up by next week. That is my mission. I want to do it. There was a substravaganza, a sub hype party thanks to MTG Effect. Gifted no less than 10 subs.
Wow.
Trav_Shock, Storm Count, The Hush 85, TSS Aleoc or Aloic, Charlie Hines.
Aleoc has been never mind.
Well, it's IOC. Is that OIC or IOC? You said it. Will F910, Cube Streams, Juan Fran 63, Yakumo the Twitch, and Glycan all at one time. Martin Casa resub for 12 months in a row. Happy sub birthday. Thank you so much. Not Mr. Kaka. Mr. Casa. We did that with a straight face, everybody.
Oh, I even embellished it. I was like, yes, Kaka. And he's like, no.
No. CCM White resub for 2 months. Thank you so much. It's always important when they come back for that first month. Big Lou 154 resub for 2 months. 2 months down. Many more to go. Excited to see how the story for the war ends. Absolutely. Celtic Damon resub for 4 months. 4 months of helping our hosts tap the cards. So we don't have to. That's right. Contrast 101, subscribe via Prime. Thank you very much. Welcome to the channel. Millbridge, subscribe. Welcome to the channel. Droopy Koopy, resub for 9 months. Thank you for giving me something to listen to on my way into work on Thursday mornings. Love you guys. Well, we got that love right back at you.
I love hearing the stories of where you guys take us, and I love seeing the pictures of you watching our shows. That's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. Reuben, you want to tell us about the Bit Givers?
Yeah, it was recommended this week from user Variant Human that I do it as the voice of Pumat Soul, which some of you will understand. So, hello there. Well, it's glad to have you. And I'm going to be reading the top cheers this week as Pumat Soul. 69 bits from House of Shadow and 69 bits from Shame MTG. That's nice.
Jesus Christ.
T.S. Saloic has 96 bits given to us, which is also kind of nice, but backwards. A Brain to Remember gave us 200 bits. Martin Casa gave us 200 bits as well.
Thanks.
Milk Cows with 300 bits doing us a solid there.
Is this just Yogi Bear?
Variant Human gave us 420 bits, which is the drugs number.
That's the drug time.
Eternally Tribal gave us 650 bits, which is super nice of them to do that. And of course, a little aloof, one of the all-stars of the show, Unsung Hero, who subscribed for 12 months, gave us 1,234 bits.
Thank you
so much to all of you for giving those.
You'll have to let me do one in my Fargo voice one day.
Yeah, I think that's just Kermit Stone, but okay, sure, whatever. It's fine.
There's a big difference between Pumat Soul and Kermit the Frog.
What is Pumat Soul? I've never heard of it.
It's one of the NPCs from that D&D show I watch.
Oh, okay.
Oh, neat. All right, well, we're going to turn the corner here to the finisher. This week, Magic Mike's was proud and privileged to present a brand new hashtag-sponsored official preview card, Tyrant Scorn, to the world. A spectacular uncommon that's not just the combination of smother and unsummon, and showcasing an amazing story moment from the upcoming War of the Spark, where this is the longest sentence of all time, where Nicol Bolas,
looking at that and I was like, that's a lot to read.
the big bad evil guy of the decade, swats the hero planeswalker Gideon Jura and breaks the epic Blackblade in half, and, well, by this morning, you knew the rest. Our preview got leaked merely hours before tonight's show. Now, we're no stranger to spoilers, having had Rona spoiled once upon a time, and now this. And with the Russo brothers jumpstarting a larger conversation about spoilers before Avengers Endgame, spoiler alerts aren't the exclusive domain of the Magic community. I think most of us can agree that getting spoiled on a card or a movie is not the ideal way to learn a story. So with that in mind, let's make lemonade out of spoiled lemons. How can we, as a culture, dissuade spoilers? Reuben?
Well, I'm a big Game of Thrones fan, or as we never call ourselves, Throne. And there have been Thrones spoilers in the past. Most notably, a whole episode was accidentally leaked last season. And I think Magic shares a lot in common with Game of Thrones, of course, so I think we can handle leaks in the exact same way that they do. We send dragons to your inbox, and you get torched on Twitter.
Nice.
Because you either play the game of official previews, or you die.
I like that game.
It's a good game. Erin?
Well, I avoid spoilers like the plague, and I do mean the plague. Hand sanitizer, antibacterial soap, air filter masks on the bus, you name it. And of course, the thing you need most to face this world full of sick people, the right answers to your opponent's sideboard hate.
That's right. That's how you do that. Well, look. Avoiding War of the Spark and Endgame spoilers is a similar sport. You go on the internet hoping to see hype for the big heroes like Snarky Genius Leader and Honor-Bound Hero and Long Hair Beefcake and, of course, adorable furry sidekick. So since we're in the endgame now in more ways than one, I think we handle it in the same way. Snap y'all in half. Fun isn't something one considers when banning the spoiler accounts. But dunking on those jerks, well, puts a smile on my face.
It really does.
It certainly does. And that ends another live episode of Magic Mike's. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you for having me. We're recording our set review this weekend, so wish us luck. It should be really fun.
Right.
It's going to be dope. Thank you, Reuben.
I can't wait to see Evan get pied in the face. It's going to be great.
Evan lost his bet with me.
That's right.
Gonna be crazy. Let's move here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsors, CardHoarder.com and CardamandJigs.com, my co-hosts, Aaron Campbell, Reuben Bressler, you guys for watching and listening, and hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMikes. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv at Magic Mikes, on Twitter at Magic Mikes Cast, our Magic Mikes subreddit, and like the Magic Mikes page on Facebook. Talk to us privately at MagicMikesPodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at MagicMikesPodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week. Same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mikes. Good night, everybody.